Hello and welcome to the Target UPSC Prelims 2025 series of Drishti IS. I am Ritu and today's session is about polity. As you already know that we have launched this series particularly for your prelims examination. So I am hoping that you all are revising this, and this particular series is related to the important political events. So we are going to discuss onto that. So let's move towards to the first points of discussion. So the first is around the president rule imposed in Manipur. So this was nothing new because Manipur was a lot of in discussion, a lot of in controversy because of the Kuki Methi fight. And after this, what we have seen that the CM has resigned, and after that we can see that president's rule was imposed in Manipur. And this was pretty much expected in Manipur because the situation was very much tense there and it was out of control of the state government. So that's why such decision had been taken. So we had already covered this particular topic in our in news series, but here we'll have a quick revision about the president's rule. So we are going to talk about that. So the first topic is related to the president rule. So the center imposed president's rule in Manipur under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution. And here we'll discuss that what is the president's rule. So president rule refers to a suspension of a state government and legislative assembly, placing the state under the direct control of the central government, and it is imposed under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution. So this particular article is very much important. We'll talk about it. And then what are the other articles which is related to the president's rule. So Article 355 mandates the center to ensure state function according to the constitution. If a state fails to do so, the center can intervene under Article 356 by imposing president's rule. It is also called state emergency or constitutional emergency. Then what are the grounds of proclamation? So here we can see that president can impose president's rule if state government cannot function constitutionally, and the governor's recommendation or president discretion even without the governor's report. So here what we can see that governor can also ask the president that we need president rule, and if the governor didn't what you can say recognize this thing, after that also, despite of that also, the president can impose the president rule in any state by overviewing the situation of that particular state. So we'll discuss some more articles related to it. So Article 365, if a state does not comply with the center's direction, the president can declare the state government non-functional. Then we need parliamentary approval for this. President rule must be approved by both the houses of parliament within 2 months. If the Lok Sabha is dissolved, the rule remains valid until 30 days after it reconvenes, provided the Rajya Sabha approves. Approval or extension requires simple majority in the parliament. This is very much important because this confuses people a lot, that whether it requires special majority or simple majority, and simple majority means 50% strength of the house. So here what is the duration? President rule lasts for 6 months initially, but it can be extended through 3 years. Beyond 3 years, we need constitutional amendment. So after every 6 years, 6 months, there will be overview that we need to extend it or not, and we can extend it till 3 years. And after 3 years, if their situation worsens, then we need constitutional amendment. And revocation, the president can revoke it at any point of time without any parliamentary approval. So this is related to the president's rule. Now we'll talk about the state loss rupees 91,000 crore under the schemes on lower spending capacity. So here we are going to talk about that why funds are unspent and why here the center has taken such kind of the decision. So this is the news that the center cut the 2025 and 2026 centrally sponsored scheme outlay to states by rupees 91,000 crore, 18% of the budget estimate of the scheme, after finding rupees 1.6 lakh crore unspent funds from past transfer, and that's why the center has taken such decision. However, this decision has been not welcomed by the various states because they said that they are in loss because of such kind of the policies, and many states have termed this decision contrary to the fiscal federalism under the Article 282. So we are going to talk about the Article 282. So it allows both the union and states to make grants for any public purpose even beyond their legislative jurisdiction. Unlike tax devolution, Article 270 and 275 grants under Article 282 are discretionary and not bound by Finance Commission. So here there is no concrete division that this much share goes to the center, this much share goes to the state. So this is totally discretionary and initially intended for unanticipated contingencies. Article 270 and 275 mandate the FC to determine the share, state share and the union share, but here there is no such determination. So this is the difference between Article 282 and Article 270 and 275. So here what is centrally sponsored scheme? So this particular centrally sponsored scheme is shared by both, funded by both central government and state government. So it is jointly funded and they cover sectors under the state and concurrent list of the constitution. They supplement state efforts with the central government having greater financial resources. All CSS transferred to states are routed through the Consolidated Fund of India. So here we have another role, which is the Consolidated Fund of India, jointly funded. So what is the highlight here? So highlight here is that centrally sponsored scheme, jointly funded. Then why they are unspent, why center has taken such kind of decision. So you need to joint all the dots from here. Now we'll talk about the another one nation, one election and representative democracy. This was highly debatable, highly discussed last year, and that's why today we are here with this discussion that what is this one nation, one election about. So we are going to talk about that. The process adopted for the one nation, one election bill had lapses that affect India's democratic fabric. So we are going to talk about the positive and negative sides of it and why this was so much in debate and discussion. So we'll discuss some articles related to it also. So there is a high level committee report on simultaneous election which was formed in 2023, chaired by the former President Ramnath Kovind, and in that there is a provision that there will be simultaneous election, and simultaneous election means that there will be at the same time there will be election of the Lok Sabha election and the state legislative election. So that's why it is called as one nation and one election, though there is no discussion of the what you can say local body poll, which is the Sarpanch Chunav and which is the municipal bodies Chunav. So we do not have such kind of mention here, but here they are solely talking about the state legislative assembly election and Lok Sabha election. So Vidhan Sabha election and the Lok Sabha election, and why such kind of decisions have been taken. So this particular committee talks about that it will minimize the burden of the government, it will minimize the cost which has been spent on the election. So this is the news which we will cover up. So we'll also cover a few articles related to it. So amendment to Article 327. So this particular committee proposes, the bill proposes amending Article 327 to include conduct of simultaneous election after delimitation of constituencies, expanding Parliament's power over state legislature election, and the bill excluded the local bodies and municipalities. We already had discussed this point. Then we'll some also discuss Article 82. So Article 82(1) provides for the timeline for the President to bring into force for the proposed changes on the date of first sitting of the Lok Sabha. So here Article 82(1)(a)(1) talks about the appointed date. So since appointment of date, there will be of what you can say counting of another 5 years, and in that the next election will be held onto that particular day. So this is about the appointed date. Article 82(2) states that the terms of the state assemblies elected after the appointed date and before the Lok Sabha's full term ends will conclude with the Lok Sabha term. Article 82(3) states that the Election Commission of India shall conduct general election to the House of the People and all legislative assemblies simultaneously. Article 82(a)(4) defines simultaneous elections as a general election held for constituting the House of the People and all the legislative assembly together. So this is about the articles related to it. Now here this is so much of debate that why people were angry over such kind of the decision, because states were also expressed their concerns related to it, because they said that it will diminish the cooperative federalism, because India has this what you can say cooperative federalism. We do have some stakes of the states, and whenever there is an election of the state legislative assembly, we often see that local political parties are emerging, local leaders are emerging, people are more connected with their local leaders and they are raising their local issues. If there will be simultaneous election, the local issues will be diminished, there will be no discussion, and the people will not get chance to express themselves, chance to associate. So they had to decide their politics, what the countries in is in mood. So this is one of the disadvantageous thing which people had discouraged about the one nation and one election. If we'll talk about the advantages situation, so as this committee has proposed that this will diminish the cost, and this will also take care of the extra time taking, and every time election commission is conducting election of one state or any other state, so this has become a what you can say all year process, which has been very much time consuming, cost consuming. So in order to remove such kind of barriers, such kind of proposal has been presented. Let's see what happens. Now we are going to talk about the Interstate Council reconstituted with the PM as chairman, NDA allies included. So here we are going to talk about the Interstate Council, what it is about. So here the Indian government reconstituted the Interstate Council after 2 years, with the last reconstitution happened in 2022, and the chairperson is Prime Minister of India. And here we'll talk about that what is this Interstate Council. So Interstate Council was constituted to facilitate center state and interstate cooperation in India, and it was established under Article 263 of the Indian Constitution, which empowers the President of India to establish Interstate Council for better coordination between center and state. So who is the chairperson of the Interstate Council? You have to comment down. Then after the recommendation of Sarkaria Commission, the ISC is a permanent body which was proposed in 1988, but it got established in 1990 after the presidential order. And what its function? So its function is to discuss the subjects of common interest of the states and the center, and makes recommendation for the coordination of the policies and action. It also investigates issues affecting the center state and interstate relation. So this is about not just union and states, it's also about between states. So what is the composition? So PM serves as the chairperson of this particular what you can say Interstate Council, and then all the chief ministers are member of this particular council, all the CMs of the union territories are the member of this council, and then administrator of the union territories are also member of this council, and then 6 cabinet ministers, 6 minister of the cabinet rank are also required. It's up to the chairperson that whom they are selecting it. So this is what you can say about the Interstate Council. And Interstate Council Secretariat is in New Delhi, was established in 1991 and is headed by the Secretary to the Government of India. So this is about the Interstate Council. As you already know that there are so much of controversy related to the different state relation. People were fighting over the political issues, people were fighting over the what you can say geographical issues, climatic issue. In such situation we need a council to overview the situation of the center and a particular state, and then between states also. Now we'll talk about the K. Sanjay Murthy assumes charge as new Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So we are going to discuss about the post of Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So K. Sanjay Murthy has been appointed as the new Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He has succeeded the Girish Chandra Murmu. This is very much important because in prelims examination they can ask questions like this. So you need to tick to the present K. Sanjay Murthy. So what is this post about? So CAG of India, as per the Article 148 of the Constitution, heads the Indian Audit and Accounts Department. He or she is responsible for safeguarding the public purse and overseeing the financial system at both the central and state levels. Then we'll also talk about the appointment and terms. So the chairperson, what CAG is appointed by the President of India, and serves the term for the 6 years or age of 65, whichever is earlier. Suppose that if anybody has been appointed at CAG at the age of 64 or 62, so if the person will attain 65 years in 3 years, then the person will be retired. It does not mean that the person has to spend another 6 years. So whichever is earlier. And who can remove CAG? So it is possible by the president on the same ground as ground and process which a Supreme Court judge require. So this needs a special majority and kind of impeachment also. And CAG can resign anytime from his office by addressing the resignation to the president of the country. So this is also very much important because such questions have been asked in prelims examination. Now we'll talk about the PM Modi, Amit Shah, Rahul Gandhi meet to appoint new Chief Election Commissioner, how the appointment process works and why it was changed. We had also discussed this topic in our daily program. So if you want to have a detailed study about it, do check in new series of this TIS. We had covered this aspect. Now we are going to talk about the Chief Election Commissioner. So who is the Chief Election Commissioner? So Gyanesh Kumar has been appointed as the new Chief Election Commissioner, and one of the after this particular his appointment, there was so much of debate related to his appointment because one of the members of the selection committee was not happy and they said that they had violated the rules. So here we'll talk about it. So what are the key facts regarding the 2023 Act? So it replaces the Election Commission condition of the service of the Election Commissioner and Transaction of Business Act 1991, and it regulates the appointment, tenure, service conditions of the Chief Election Commissioner, election commissioners and the procedures of the Election Commission. So if we'll see that what are the judicial background. So this particular act prompted by Supreme Court intervention after multiple petitioners had said that and they had challenged that center's exclusive power in appointment of the chief election commissioners and election commissioners. So that's why we can see that this time we have this leader of opposition. So what had happened in Anup Barnawal case, the SC ruled that a panel consisting of the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice of India would select CEC and ECs until Parliament passed a law. Before this ruling, appointment of CEC and ECs were made by the President. So right now the new thing has added, but here it had attracted a lot of controversy. So key provision of the 2023 Act, so there must be a selection committee and that selection committee must have CECs, ECs are appointed through that committee. They must be a Prime Minister who will be chairperson, then leader of opposition and then Union Cabinet Minister nominated by the Prime Minister. So this will be, they are going to be the member of the selection committee for the Chief Election Commissioners. Then here we are going to talk about the Election Commission of India. So this is an autonomous constitutional authority administered the union and state legislative election. So this is about that. In the comment section you have to tell me that who take care of the local body and municipalities election, and it was established in 25th January 1950, which is also remarked as a National Voters Day. What is the structure we have? So there will be one chief election commissioner and two election commissioner appointed by the president. Tenure 6 years or at the age of 65, whichever is earlier. Retiring EC is eligible for the further appointment by the government. Removal of the CEC, so resolution on the ground of the proven misbehavior or incapacity, and you need to show the special majority. Here constitutional provision part 15 article 324 to 329 is related to the Election Commission of India. Then we'll talk about the major roles and responsibilities. So it determines the electoral constituency, it decides the date, it releases the date, preparing, revising the electoral rolls, notifying and schedules the dates of election, registering political parties and granting them the status of national and state parties, issuing the model code of conduct, advising the president on matters concerning to the disqualification of MPs. Though there are so many challenges and criticism ahead of the election commission, many times the opposition leaders, many times the common citizen of the country also made allegations on the Election Commission of India that they are listening to the current ruling political party. So these kind of criticism has been attracted by the Election Commission of India throughout the years. But if we'll see that what would be the process, so in this process the selection committee also includes the leader of opposition, which is more democratic in nature. Now we are going to talk about the looking to turn up the heat on BJP government. LOP Patnaik forms shadow cabinet, assigns departments to BJD MLAs. So here in Odisha, some new thing had happened, which the opposition leader had decided to design a shadow cabinet which will look after that what real cabinets are doing. So in order to have a checks and balances over them, there was a creation of shadow cabinet by the opposition leader. So we are going to talk about the shadow cabinet. So what this means? So a shadow cabinet consists of the opposition MLAs, MPs who mirror the portfolios of government minister. It is led by the leader of opposition. Then role: the shadow cabinet monitors and critiques the actions of the ruling political across various departments and ministries. And the concept originates from the Westminster system used in countries like UK, Australia, Canada and New Zealand. So each country had a different form, but this concept is not new to India and to the world also, because such things had happened. And what is the purpose of the shadow cabinet? So the purpose of the shadow cabinet to scrutinize that what the real cabinets are doing and whether their policies are related to the people or not. Now we are going to talk about the Red Fort case. What are the standards for awarding death sentence and the president's mercy power? So here we are going to talk about the mercy power. So if you'll see the case that the president of India had denied the mercy petition which was related to the Red Fort case, which had happened into 2000. So what is mercy petition? We are going to talk about that. So mercy petition is a formal request made by the someone who has been sentenced to death or imprisonment, seeking mercy from the president or governor as the case may be. So here you need to be very particular that mercy petition is related to the president also and the governor also. The idea of mercy petition is followed in many countries like United States of America, United Kingdom, Canada and India. Everyone has a basic right to live, which Article 21 of Indian Constitution talks about that also. So that's why we have some provision of the mercy petition. So what are the constitutional framework we have? As per the constitutional framework in India, a mercy petition to the president is the last constitutional resort a convict can take when the sentenced by a court of law. A convict can present a mercy petition to the President of India under Article 72 of the Constitution. Similarly, Article 161 is related to the governor. So there are two articles, Article 72 and Article 161. So you should not confuse here that mercy petition powers rest with the president and with the governor also. And this is the last resort any convict can have. Now we'll talk about the practice question. The appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioner will be made by the President based on the recommendations of a selection committee who is not included in this committee. Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition in the Lok Sabha, a Cabinet Minister appointed by the Prime Minister, Chief Justice of India. So you can answer into the comment section. And what are the highlights of today's discussion? That we had discussed the shadow cabinet, we had discussed what you can say president's rule, we had briefly discussed about the Kuki Meitei conflict in Manipur and that led to the president rule in Manipur. So we had also discussed about the articles associated with it, and then we had discussed about the one nation one election, right to live. So these are the topics of discussion we had covered in today's session, and I am expecting you to revise it again and again for your prelims examination, because these all topics are very much important for your examination. Thank you. Have a nice day.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.